Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, today we are taking on something absolutely crucial and, honestly, incredibly special. We're looking at a chapter from a textbook, but I want you to do me a favor and completely throw away the idea that this is just homework or a standard school project. Seriously, scratch that. Today we're embarking on an urgent, exciting, and deeply personal mission. We're going to learn how to actively protect and improve the lives of the people we care about the most by creating the ultimate family health handbook. It's really about turning knowledge into a literal shield for your loved ones.
Here is our game plan for the mission. We're breaking it down into 5 phases. First up, the family health mission. Second, the 5 pillars of good health. Third, visiting a health center. Fourth, building your first aid kit. And finally, crafting the action plan. Let's dive into this.
Before we take our very first step, I want to pose this question to you, and I want you to really think about it. How healthy is your family, really? When I ask that, your immediate thought might be, well, nobody has a fever today, so we're good. But as we unpack this source material, you'll see that true health goes way, way beyond just not being sick right now. It encompasses the overall physical, mental, and emotional well-being of every single person under your roof.
All right, Phase 1, the Family Health Mission.
The text makes this fascinating point right out of the gate. Family health is basically a team sport. The health of one person is totally interconnected with everyone else in the house. What affects one member inevitably ripples out and affects the whole household. If one person is thriving, it lifts the family up, right? But if someone is struggling, it impacts the shared environment. We are building this handbook because we're in this together, but we also have to be realistic here. Even when we try our absolute best, when we eat right, when we exercise, when we try to stay positive, illness still happens. Environmental factors, spreading infections, or even just a sudden change in the weather can knock us completely off our feet. This handbook isn't about achieving some impossible standard of perfection. It's about acknowledging that because illness is inevitable, preparation is for sure our best defense.
Moving right along to Phase 2, the 5 pillars of good health.
To prepare properly, we need to understand what we're actually protecting day in and day out. The text outlines these as the 5 pillars of good health, and they are completely linked together. First up is diet and nutrition, which gives us the specific fuel our bodies need for energy to work and play. Second is physical fitness. The text specifically calls out practices like yoga, which not only makes us stronger and more flexible, but also keeps us calm and energized. Third is sleep and rest. This is absolutely crucial because our body literally repairs itself when we sleep, letting us wake up refreshed. Fourth is mental well-being, which requires actively nurturing positive thoughts, spending time with loved ones, and just simple acts of kindness. And finally, environmental factors. We're talking about things like keeping our surroundings clean, making sure there's no stagnant water around, and using mosquito nets.
Now here's where it gets really interesting, and the chapter illustrates this perfectly. While those 5 pillars apply to absolutely everyone, the specific requirements look entirely different depending on who you're looking at in your household. Think about it. A teenager going through a massive growth spurt has vastly different dietary and sleep needs compared to a senior citizen who might have, say, specific medication schedules or different mobility requirements. Your family health handbook must be customized to map out these completely distinct generational needs.
Phase 3, visiting a health center.
Okay, now that we've got the theory down, it's time to do some actual field work. Your assignment here is to step outside the classroom, get out of your house, and visit a local health center. This could be a hospital, a community health center, or a primary health center. The goal is to interact directly with health professionals. You aren't just there to observe, you need to actively ask questions. Find out what health issues are common in your specific area, what precautions your family should be taking, and then you're going to record vital emergency contacts and observations directly into your handbook.
And as you're recording all this data, there's one piece of intel that is a total non-negotiable. It's this number, 112. This is the national emergency number in India for police, ambulance, and fire services. The text also specifically highlights 108 for the National Ambulance Service. Running these numbers down in your handbook, and more importantly, making sure everyone in the family knows exactly where to find them, is an absolutely critical part of this mission.
Phase 4. Building your first aid kit.
With our emergency intel secured, we are moving on to the most hands-on, practical part of the entire project, assembling a physical first aid toolkit that'll be ready for emergencies at home or even at school. According to our source material, you aren't just throwing some bandages into an old shoebox and calling it a day. No way. You need a diverse setup. You need diagnostic tools like a thermometer to check for fevers.
You need rehydration solutions. Think ORS, salt, and sugar. You need protective gear like gloves and masks, right alongside antiseptic ointments, medical tape, scissors, tweezers, and even simple safety pins. It really is a comprehensive arsenal for basic healthcare.
But listen, just having the items isn't enough. They have to be organized. If someone in your family gets hurt, the absolute last thing you want to do is dig blindly through a messy, chaotic box. The project instructs you to systematically organize and label these components. By categorizing everything into dressings, medicines, and tools, you guarantee that exactly what you need is instantly accessible the very second an actual emergency strikes.
And finally, Phase 5, crafting the action plan.
So, we have our foundational knowledge, we have our professional intel, and our physical toolkit is packed. But to create a final plan that actually works, you have to know exactly where you are starting from. You'll need to track habits and analyze real health data. The handbook asks you to calculate the approximate hours you and your family spend on different daily activities. How much time is spent relaxing? How much time is spent being physically active? You need to establish this baseline data so you can see the true reality of your family's daily routines.
Let's see how this all builds into the final deliverable. It's a chronological 4-step process. First, you observe the environments, like how is waste being disposed of? Are you all eating meals together? Second, you record this health data. Third, you calculate the time spent on various habits. And fourth, you formulate the action plan itself. For instance, if your data shows that you're spending hours staring at electronic devices right before sleep, your action plan will directly target that habit. Why? Because we learned earlier just how crucial sleep is for cellular repair. Your data directly informs your improvement strategy. It's brilliant.
So, we've unpacked the entire mission, from understanding those 5 pillars of health to building a tangible first aid kit and mapping out a data-driven action plan. But honestly, a handbook just sitting on a shelf doesn't protect anyone. So I want to leave you with this thought. Stop thinking of this as just an interesting explainer of a textbook assignment. Think of it as a literal blueprint for your family's longevity and happiness. What is the very first step you will take for your family today? Are you going to go buy that thermometer? Are you going to write down 112 on the fridge right now? The mission starts today. Thanks so much for joining me on The Explainer, and I will see you next time.